Welcome to FreeMMOStation. I'm Skyland Shore, and today I'm going to give you my first impression, a little first look, a sneak peekity-doo at a new indie sandbox, low fantasy medieval game called Gloria Victis.
FreeMMOStation.com.
Before we really get anywhere deep into this discussion, I want to say that the game is pre-alpha build. You can see that right on the top of the screen right up there. Gloria Victis is very early in development, so you're going to see some harsh textures, some harsh animations, and pretty much overall harsh gameplay. It is still very new. A lot can change. Audio from Vidya to pretty much everything about the game. It's going to be better, okay? This is pre-alpha, guys, so very, very early first look. That's all I'm going to say. But now let's get right into it. Let's have a little rant. Let's have a little discussion. Please tell us in the comments below what you think of the game. If you are playing it right now, please let us know how you feel about it and the different things that you could do. But I'm going to tell you how I feel right here, and you guys can talk about it amongst yourselves and with me in the comments below. But okay, I think I kind of had some fun with the game. I'm 3 to 4 hours into the game, and I played with some veterans of the game. They were showing me around, telling me what to do. And overall, I feel like as a first impressions, the game doesn't give a very welcoming first impression. It's very hard to get into the game, but then again, the genre is known as hardcore. It is very hard to get into these games. But then again, that's also the reason why generally a lot of these sandbox titles kind of fail. As we saw with Mortal Online, a lot of people didn't exactly know what to do, so you'd spend hours and hours just kind of flopping around, not doing anything at all. And yeah, well, okay, so what can you do in Gloria Victis? I found that you can fight a lot. You could farm a lot. That's pretty cool. I actually kind of like some of the fighting mechanics of this game. Now, it's very strategic. If you go and look into these menus, you see that you actually have different bonuses depending on the weapons and armors for attacking on the left side, on the right side, or overhead swings. You know, it's very tactical like that, but you're not going to have the mechanics that you would have in Chivalry. Now, this is an MMO, so we're not going to have the arena mechanics that we do in melee games like that, but it's still, you know, there is still some strategy. But overall, I found the game to be actually really good with bow and arrow. That was my preferred playstyle, and I thought it was really interesting that I could shoot as far as I wanted to shoot, and there was like sort of like a skill cap, or a skill gap, I guess you could say, for learning the drop of the arrows, and potentially maybe with different bows. Different bows might have different lengths, or maybe if I level up my character, maybe I'll get new abilities, maybe I could see further away. Okay, I'm just really speculating. I have no idea if that's going to be in the game or not. But right now, all I saw was base armors, base weapons, and overall they performed pretty slow, pretty sluggish, but that's with the, I guess, the concept that later on your character will be stronger, you will get better gear, and you will have more maneuverability. You might even get some additional abilities and stuff like that. So right now, bow and arrow, the only ability, I guess you could say, you have, or any sort of mechanical difference, is that you can click in the right click, and you can sort of shift your camera a little bit closer and a little bit to the side. I would like to see that maybe if you have different bows, or maybe if you level up a certain ability, or something, that maybe we would be able to zoom in a little bit more. I mean, that'd be, I think, kind of interesting. Maybe, I know it is a low fantasy medieval, so you're not going to have any magic or anything like that, but I would like to see a little bit of a mechanical difference with that in the game, and I think there's definitely the potential for that. It is very early alpha. We could have changes like that. Now, combat, melee combat, since it is a very melee-focused game, there's a huge emphasis on that. Well, it's interesting. Now, it's nothing like Chivalry. You're not going to have the mechanics or the depth there, but strategically, you know, it is there, statistically, I guess you could say, because you have different armor values, you have different weapon values, and like I said, directional. So you do have to keep that in mind. But overall, it's very arcade. You're not going to have the realism that maybe you are looking for in a niche title like this. It's still pretty arcade, and it's actually pretty easy to get into. For instance, you heal out of combat extremely quickly, extremely fast. So if you make a mistake, you can probably run away. Now, here's an issue that I have with the game, is that when you are running away, you get hit and you're slowed down, and it is dramatic. It's very, very dramatic. So if you make a mistake, you're probably going to be punished for it. But if you do get away, then you're good to go. You're going to heal back up and you can go back into the fight. Also, the fact that arrows don't consume any sort of ammunition. So, you know, there's that. There's a lot of little tiny arcade mechanics that go into this hardcore game that may turn away some people that are looking for a hardcore and niche title. But, you know, maybe that's also going to open it up. Maybe a lot of people are going to play the game and it's going to be a little bit more intuitive and a little bit easier because it does have those small arcade mechanics. It's probably just going to come down to preference. Me, preferably, I generally don't enjoy games that take away from the hardcore aspects if it's claiming to be a hardcore game. Like, I very much enjoyed Albion Online, But overall, you know, I'm actually enjoying the game. It was very easy to farm up, and that's a big problem in a lot of these games. It's hard to get these materials, hard to farm up, hard to get your just basic supplies so that you can actually go out from there and then, I don't know, conquer the world or something. But in this game, it's very easy to farm up. It's very easy to kill animals. I'm going to suggest bow and arrows. You know, if you can master the bow and arrow and shoot people from long range, you can take out people, probably double your level, and not even get hit once. You know, of course, so the game does reward skill, absolutely. Now, for melee, it's a little bit more different. If you are sword and board or maybe a two-handed weapon, it kind of feels kind of standstill a little bit because of the mechanics. Because if you get hit, you're slowed down. If you hit somebody else, you're slowed down. If you're attacking, you're slowed down. So it almost feels, you know, standstill-ish. So you have to be very strategic with that. You won't be able to do any rolls or dashes or leaps or jumps. And overall, melee combat is more strategic based, but if you want to use arrows and everything, I feel like that's a lot more where the skill comes into. I think pretty much if you're going to play this game, just pick up bows and arrows and then whatever melee weapons that you want. I think it's really good to use your bows and arrows, and then once something, if you can't kill it in time, if it does reach you, then switch out to your sword and board or your axe and board, and then you're good to go from there. I think pretty much that's just how the game is played. I don't know, it's alright. No chivalry, but it's alright. Now, what I think makes the game what it is because it is a big open world. There's no questing, but there is actually, I guess, some nice flavor text. You know, there's some interesting and very adult-oriented dialogue from this game. But you're not going to have the sort of uniquity that you would have in the game Reign of Kings, where you can create castles and destroy castles. You're not going to have that. It's really based around combat. There is a lot of PvE combat, a lot of farming. So it's all about getting your guild, I guess, your team, your clan, whatever. You're trying to get everyone geared up and then to go out and conquer and fight in PvP and PvE. And it's actually very simple. It's kind of down to the basic elements of what the genre is. And I think it could do it well. Now, it is still very early. It's very unpolished, I have to admit. But overall, it kind of had me intrigued. Now, generally, when I first got into this game, I'll admit it was really rough looking. I was not prepared. There was a lot of glitches, too. But as the game, updates after updates are coming along, and the game is running smoother and smoother every time, I'm starting to see the potential in this game. I think it could work out very well, but there still is a lot of glitches. So people who are looking to get into the early access, I'm going to probably have to say, I want to deter you. It's probably not proper right now, but if you are an enthusiast of the genre, and especially of the themality, the low medieval, the low fantasy medieval game, I think you might want to buy into it, but then again, it's still a rough experience. But for me, it was still an experience, and I think that's what matters. Whenever you play a interesting hardcore genre like this, you normally do get at least an experience, even if it's bad or good, whatever, you're going to have something memorable from it. And from this game, it was pretty interesting. Now, I kind of wish there was a little bit more upfront PvP, but overall, I think it could be a lot of fun because you are going to actually have the, I guess, your bow and arrow is going to fly through the air. Your arrow is going to fly through the air in real time. Your melee combat is still very strategic and tactical. So I think a lot of people who are interested in this genre are going to like it for those reasons. But for the grinding and for the crafting, all that stuff is still very arcade. And so in that sense, it's going to be very easy to, I guess, level up to get to a competitive point where you can actually go out and then PvP with your guild and everything. So I guess the early level stuff, really easy. Late game stuff, when you actually start fighting harder people, harder bosses, or harder mobs, it starts getting a little bit more difficult, and I think that's the proper curve. In a lot of these games, the level 1 is way too hard, way too difficult. Now, I think this game makes it very hard to understand what to do first. I spent probably more hours learning about the game before actually playing it, because I actually had to go learn what to do, how to craft, etc., etc. I even had people just straight up like holding my hand, telling me what to do. But you know, as the game evolves, as the community gets bigger, we're going to have PDFs, we're going to have videos, people telling you what to do, and then that way it's easier to get into the game. But already, you know, for the arcade mechanics in the game, it might turn off some people, but I think it's going to make the game a little bit easier to get into. And for a hardcore game, I think it kind of has a really interesting balance. Gloria Victis seems like it's going to be the middle ground for a lot of games. It's not too hardcore, it's not too arcade, somewhere right in the middle, and really the only way you're going to be able to tell if you like it or not is if you're going to play it, and why not, it's going to be free to play. So there is that. Also, I think it's probably really the only real free-to-play medieval game. Mortal Online, I think a lot of people consider that a failure of a game, and Gloria Victis absolutely is better than Mortal Online at the least. And this is coming from somebody who was a huge proponent of Mortal Online. So, yeah, just remember that. Hopefully you found the first impression fair. I thought that this game was interesting, at the least. So hopefully you guys will at least check it out, and hopefully you had fun with the video. I had fun making it. So thanks for watching. I'm Skyline Shore with FreeMMOStation, and I'll see you guys later.